Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome to Think Out Loud with me. I'm Natalie Peterson, casting in from my little neck of the woods in northern Colorado to you and yours, wherever and whenever that might be. This digital adventure is an effort to turn years of internal chatter, wondering, silent suffering, and physical and mental close calls into enlightening and empowering conversations with others. Given how many choices you have to spend your time, I am honored that you're listening in. In recent months, I've been enjoying a new community called Her Nation and noodling on the idea of leveling up my efforts around this chat cast by attending several networking events with communications queens. It's in these rooms that I connected with my guest today, Caren Cooper, and I've been looking forward to spending time with her, thinking out loud and letting others listen in. Former corporate America employee turned entrepreneur, Caren is a corporate trauma recovery specialist. She's incredibly passionate about helping women heal from the shackles of the corporate world. Having been a working mom, Caren knows firsthand the trauma of corporate and how much that trauma plays a role in entrepreneurship and life. Through her signature program, Unscrew Yourself, Caren empowers women to harness the power within themselves so that they can show up confidently and authentically as their unique, badass selves. Woo! Caren is also a mom of 2 young adults. She is unabashed in her love for disco and corny jokes. I love to see her host Friday dance parties on Facebook, and I adore her already for her bravery and sass. Caren, thank you so much for being here all the way from Staten Island, New York. Want to think out loud with me?
I absolutely do. Thank you so much for having me today.
Awesome. We had to reschedule this little chat to make sure that we were both in the headspace to join together and just share story and perspective and journey, what's gotten us to this point. Before we hit record, we were talking about the wild world and universe actually bringing 2 random human beings together, and the wondering that goes on around that, if we really stop and think about just sharing this big, beautiful planet, you and I, out of all the people in the world, to land here in this recording room. I'm just glad to see you and think out loud with you.
Yeah, it's I was saying offline how crazy it is that like you can just Zoom and meet people, and like how, we live in a world, Natalie and I live in a world where, we had to dial up for the, we live in a world where we actually like, I'm going to sound like 400 years old right now, but like, oh my God, when the internet, when the internet was invented. So like the mere fact that we can be on a Zoom, like we can meet in like Zoom rooms and then go on Zoom and like have this conversation, and then this podcast is going to be out there for people to listen to. It's just nuts. It's just wild and so freaking cool.
It is cool. We were alive when the internet was invented.
Which is
does make us sad.
It's so fucking ridiculous. Like I just said that out loud, and like remember when we were kids and like our parents would say, and I walked to school uphill and downhill in the 45 inches of snow. I literally just became that person saying.
It's awesome though. I mean, seriously, we both have kids. Like my 15-year-old doesn't know his life without
No.
connectivity.
Yeah.
And yeah, the concept of just not having a phone or not having, like, how the hell did we coordinate playing together? Like, little Caren and little Natalie out there, how would we have gotten to each other, right? How did we find each other on any given Saturday morning?
But the thing is, that's the interesting part about what you're saying. But because we didn't know any different.
Mm-hmm.
So we could go freaking ring each other's doorbells, or we knew each other from school, or we like, I'm going to meet you on the corner at 3:00 in the afternoon. You know what I mean? And that's what we did. And then we were outside playing all the time because that's what we did. Like,
Yeah.
we didn't know there was no other world. You know what I'm saying? Like there was no world where we, you know what I mean? How do we figure out we did? Because well, we actually had conversations with each other as human beings, as opposed to texting each other on a phone. And so that's what we, you know what I mean? That's what we did. And here's the funny part about all this too. So as a kid, I went upstate New York to Monticello for the summers. So like school would end, my parents would bring me, we literally had one car, 6-passenger cars. They used to be those things. And you know, my parents, I think my brother, I'm not even sure, but myself for sure, my grandparents would drive up to Monticello to the bungalow colonies. My parents would leave because they had to work, and I stayed up this the whole summer with my grandparents. Right. So whatever friends and people I knew in Brooklyn where I grew up, I didn't see or hear from them the entire 2 months that I was upstate in the bungalow colony. So I
Yeah.
had my Monticello friends for the summer, and then I would go back to Brooklyn in September and hang out with the people in Brooklyn. And there you go. And we all live to tell the tale.
We all live to talk about it. I want to know more about you as a young person. So Brooklyn and upstate New York. Tell me more about your surroundings and just how the original petri dish where Caren Cooper was like where you became human and started running around. Tell me more about your upbringing.
I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, New York. And if you can't tell by the accent, I don't hear it, but other people do. Yeah, I grew up in Brooklyn. My brother is 4 years older than me. My parents had an extremely chaotic marriage. I love my parents, but they did the best they could with what they knew. And my dad passed away 13 years ago. He was my champion. Like he was, you know, because I was the one who booked the trend. Like I always asked questions. Like I was that kid. You know what I mean? Like I was that kid. My mother and I never saw eye to eye. We still don't, but I respect her. You know, yeah, I was like that kid. Like I was like torturous. Like I grew up in a Jewish household, and my mother was like, you know, you only date Jews, and I never did up until I actually met my ex-husband. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like I was that kid. And like, so it was very contentious for a while. And my brother's 4 years older than me, and he's, you know, he was the good kid and I wasn't. Let's just say that. And then, you know, and so that's how I grew up. And and with the Monticello, I don't even know how that came up. I don't even know like where that came from. But like I guess in the 70s, when you grew up in Brooklyn, you were Jewish, went up to Monticello because like I think that's what happened. I don't even know. But so as a kid, you know, my mom went back to work when I was 9 and my brother was 13. So I was totally a latchkey kid with the shoelace around my neck and all that kind of stuff. And so I think I was younger. Yeah, when I was younger, because like in the early 70s, my mom would still stay up in Monticello with us. Like my bungalow was next to Gabe Kaplan's mother. And if you know who Gabe Kaplan is, welcome back Cotter. He was Mr. Cotter. And yeah, I thought I was a shit because I used to have milk and cookies with his mother. True story. But when my mom was not, you know, when I was 9, I would literally be up in Monticello the entire summer. My parents would come up on the week. I wouldn't see my parents. Like they would come up for the weekends and whatnot. And I loved it because in the 70s, you can just frolic and do and be outside and play Ringalivio and nobody gave a shit. And there you go. It was fantastic. It was unbelievable. I loved it out there because I was free. And probably I also loved it thinking back and tying it to what I do now because I wasn't in the chaos, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that was my childhood. You know, it was like up until I was a teenager. That was, you know, that was my childhood, you know, bucking the trend, torturing my parents
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, going up to Monticello for the, you know, for the summers until my grandparents stopped. Well, my grandfather got sick when I was 17. He passed away and, you know, that stopped happening. And then, you know, life happened. I got a job and, you know, you get school and go to college and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And the kind of the big second chapter happens, right? Where you start to break free from it all.
Right.
And so you wound up in corporate life
Yes.
for many, many years. Doing what?
I worked in the advertising industry.
Yeah.
I was a media buyer first. I was on the buying side for a few years, and then I switched over to the system side for the latter part of my career.
Interesting. I grew up in advertising as well.
Oh, there you go.
I knew we passed each other in New York.
That's hilarious.
I
Yeah, I
told
worked in
you.
Manhattan. Yeah. I was 91 till 2020 on and off.
And so you like corporate America to you was, especially in New York. Were you in New York?
I was in Manhattan for a lot of the years. I was in
Yeah.
Manhattan after 9/11 too.
Really?
Yeah. My daughter was the reason why I wasn't in Manhattan on 9/11.
On
So
that
she was
day?
born early, thank fucking God.
Wow. Um, but Manhattan proper and corporate America, holy crap. I mean, if I think about, you know, that was I was corporate LA, which is not far behind, corporate New York, but
Mhm.
of a different degree, different vibe, California versus New York. But in terms of, yeah, those early days in the 90s and early 2000s, back when the internet was invented, um, closed-toed shoes, pantyhose,
Yep. Yep.
uh,
Yep. Yep.
right?
And
And
wearing sneakers because I had to take the train right from Brooklyn. So you'd wear, you'd be the woman with the the skirt and whatever, the dress, whatever, and then the stockings, and then you'd wear the socks and the sneakers because you couldn't walk in the heels all the time, and then you change from your socks and your sneakers into your heels once you get to the office.
my feet are still recovering from my days in corporate. I'm not kidding. My feet are awful. They're these pointy little, like,
Yeah.
they are the perfect shape of that shit that I shoved my toes into for years. All the trade shows and the hoofing all over creation in between sales calls.
Mhm.
Joke. And let's just have a moment for stuffing yourself in pantyhose and tights
Oh my God, it was ridiculous.
with
And
no
those of us who know what clear nail polish does for me.
yes. You always had a bottle of clear nail polish for the runs if you snagged. Oh my gosh. And it wasn't like today you can put on a pair of tights and look cute. We didn't have the option.
There's no Spanx.
There was no Spanx. I wore a pair of Spanx last week at a conference and I thought I was going to murder somebody by the time I got back up to my hotel room and took it off. I was like, this is punishment for doing something I don't know. But but yeah, corporate America, which still is going strong. I mean, there's
Yeah.
right.
Hmm.
Um, although there's some easing of restrictions and even people flirting with, 4-day work weeks and all kinds of crazy stuff. But you know, spending that time in with the boundary the boundaries, the obstacles, I'm thinking, the walls, the cubicles, just everything
Yeah.
as a metaphor for life, right? It
Hmm.
was,
Hmm.
you knew where to be when you had
Yep.
your lunch hour, you had your deliverables. Taking corporate life to entrepreneurship on the surface, so leaving corporate America behind, which you've recently done, in the last several years, on the surface it seems like it shouldn't be that hard. I mean, I have the discipline of showing up every day.
Correct.
I was a top performer.
Right.
You knew where I was, you knew my deliverables, you knew what, I was going to exceed expectations, meeting and exceeding expectations of business, including sales and marketing and operations and budgeting and human resources and IT and holy shit, right? And
Hmm.
customer service,
Hmm.
accounts, being a media buyer, having incredible relationships, like
Yeah.
indispensable as a corporate employee.
Yeah.
So what's the catch? Like, why is going out on your, like, you've got all of these fantastic, this discipline as a corporate person. Why is entrepreneurship so fucking challenging? Why is it so hard to go out on your own?
Great question. And it's because there's several reasons for this. Okay. And the thing is that it's conditioning is part of it. Okay. We are one of the things is we're so wrapped up in the identity of our corporate identity, right? So like I was wrapped up in I was a working mom. And who was I if I wasn't a working mom? For example, just to give you an example, right? So you're so tied up in the identity and the worth, and you're tied up in the external giving you validation. So you did a good job or you did a bad job, whatever it may be, you're feeding off of that external, so whatever it is, right? And so when you become an entrepreneur, you're not getting anything external. Side note, here's a fun secret: everything is internal. You have the power within you, which is why I say about the power. But we can get into that later. So there's that part. So your identity. So you have a huge, I don't want to say identity crisis, but you're like, okay, who the hell am I if I'm not a corporate American employee? That's the first thing. And then the second thing is you had the discipline because you had to answer to someone. Now you don't, right? So it's like, okay, what do I do? And it's also what happens is in corporate, and even before that, there's things that have happened to you that have created who you are, right? So maybe you're a people pleaser. Like I was a people pleaser, codependent, and control freak. So perhaps you were staying in a toxic environment because you didn't know a way out. You were very much in survival mode, for example. You know what I mean? Like you were just all jacked up all the time. And so you needed the job because you needed the money. And so all of that came into play, but all of that was, based off of other little T traumas that you had dealt with as a child, and they came into play into corporate America. So when you leave, you're like, okay, you still have all this trauma within you. So you're still like, okay, what do I do with this? So then you create busy work, and then you keep thinking that you're doing things, but you're on this never-ending hamster wheel doing the same thing. Because it's like, wait, I can schedule my own things. And then when you figure out that you can schedule your own things and you're done by 2:00 in the afternoon, you're like, oh shit, wait, how can I be done at 2:00? I have more than I need to do. And so you do more, you end at 5:30, 6:00, and then you're miserable and exhausted and burned out because you're doing the same thing over and over again. So that's what's coming into play when you leave corporate into becoming an entrepreneur. You're still that you have to basically rewire, reprogram, and confront. I don't want to say confront, but that's where that just came out, and handle and understand, where is all this coming from? Why what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I talk about healing, because it's never, by the way, it's a journey, not a destination, because that's when you start, oh wait, I'm a people pleaser. Oh, this is why I did this. Now I understand. Now I could, change it, do it differently, and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Your own decision to leave corporate, was it was a
Was it mine?
it, how did it happen? Like, was
It
it
wasn't my decision at all, actually. I was working at so we could land into the other conversation. Yeah, I had a contract position at NBC, a freelance contract position, after the horrific time trying to find the job. And the contract ended the end of March 2020. And the writing was on the wall that the project was dying in January of 2020. And I wasn't sure whether or not I wanted to look for another job or not, like what I wanted to do, because at the time I was doing network marketing as a side hustle, while I was doing my full-time job. And I was like, do I want to do this? I don't know, whatever. And then the pandemic hit 2 weeks before my contract ended. So the pandemic was the reason why I became an entrepreneur full-time.
so becoming an entrepreneur with the likes of a global emergency we've never experienced before?
It was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. But here's what it was like, because I had no idea what the fuck to do with myself. Like I literally, everything I just described, it was me back
Right.
then. Okay. But thankfully, a few things happened. Is that so? I partnered with Isogenics, and so the community was like, we're going to do power hours. So we would get together on Zooms and do power hours, and we figured it, you know what I mean? So that even though it was a global pandemic, it was like, okay, how do we pivot? And we worked together to pivot. So that was unbelievable and awesome and amazing and wonderful. And so that was able to help me, at least in that respect. The reason why I, do what I do now is because I found myself with still like a year and a half after I was home, not doing. I'm not on that hamster wheel. I'm not doing things. I was like, wait, I need more. I was already doing personal development, but I was like, I'm stuck.
Mm-hmm.
I'm freaking stuck. So while I had all of these things, I still had to deal with all the mishigas that was going on inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
Mishigas, by the way, is crap. It's Jewish for crap.
I love that word.
FYI.
That is the word of the day. Mishigas.
Yeah.
Love it. And so, in our world of mentoring and coaching and guiding, we talk about we can only help others to a depth that we've helped ourselves. And so you surrounded yourself with people who were helping themselves and in effect helped you.
Yep.
And then you had a moment, an inflection point where you realized, holy shit, I need to be extending my hand out and helping others like I've been helped.
Yeah.
And so then Caren Cooper was reborn into another chapter.
Yeah.
We're constantly remaking ourselves, right? Constantly remaking ourselves. You've experienced ageism. I now know that I have to. What does this form of discrimination look and feel like to you?
It was, again, remember, I was looking for external validation. So because I was looking for the external validation, it really messed me up big time. So when I was laid off, I was laid off right before I was turning 50. So it was really like a big fat blow. So I was like, okay, I'm turning 50. I'm no longer working. Like, who am I? Right. And then you're not hiring me because of my age, because of my experience, and this still goes on nowadays. And so I was really down for quite some time, quite frankly. Like, it really fucked me up. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I'm not being sarcastic. Like, I was really like, I now understand that I never felt enough, and I had, I never felt worthy. I didn't know that then. So I was really depressed and down and like really like upset about the fact that like I was being penalized for my experience, on top of that, I needed the money. I was from that place of, because I had such a shitty money story, that I was like, shit, I need a job because I need money. And so it was all tied in, and it hit me. I was very sad. I was very depressed. I was like, how do I keep doing this? This is like insane. I keep getting rejected. Like, I would literally send out like a resume and 3 seconds later get rejected. I'm not exaggerating. Like, and even now looking for a job is not much has changed, but like it really, really, really messed me up. And even though I was doing personal development because I was doing, that work, that's when I think I realized, and then I found the job, but that's what it traumatized me so that when the writing was on the wall for the project I was working on at NBC, I was like, I don't think I can do this again. Like, I don't think I have the capacity to handle that kind of rejection and that kind of insanity again. So that's really what it did. For and I think that's also played a part in the role of why I became stuck, because I had all of this trauma, all this other stuff that went on, that even though I was trying to do work, and even though I had the community, and even though I had, the systems, all that stuff, I didn't have the wherewithal within me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, the way that the distinct, what I relate to and what you just shared is that there is the distinction of this people pleasing identity. So when someone rejects you and you realize it's because you have spent it's this freaking identity crisis where it's like, holy fuck, I have spent my entire career pleasing people I have been a professional people pleaser, and
Yep.
now that is not answering
Right. Yep.
the call because now I'm too old, like,
Right.
and having the conversation with the screen and with the send button and with the cover letter and trying to frame it up to convince
Mhm.
the person on the receiving end that you're so in your prime. I am
Right.
so valuable. I have so much experience, and you can, when I'm telling you that I am going to work my ass off, I am being totally honest with you, as
Right.
opposed to, and this isn't a knock on the younger generation, but from the perspective of being an older midlife career
Right.
person,
Right.
right? It's
Mhm.
just, it is a complete mind
Totally
fuck.
different.
I totally agree. And it can tear you down to
Mhm.
make you feel like I'm a piece of shit. What am I going to do? If I don't have the validation of a job that has security, that has benefits, that has a 401k, that has this, that, a place to report to every day, somebody who cares and gives a shit about what I'm doing, deliverables that I'm supposed to report on, who am I?
Exactly.
And then to remake myself and somehow have the tools and somehow have the know-how and the confidence and the self-love to say I'm worthy enough to head out on my own, and I'm worthy enough to stand up and do this on my own 2 feet. Um, Holy crap. Yeah, what a massive fork in the
Mhm.
road.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're stuck. Our
Mhm.
feet are in, I call it wet cement. It's like, I can't, what is my fucking problem? You talk about unscrewing yourself. So what this is your specialty now, like I've
Yeah.
said. So ageism being a plate of an experience that
Mhm.
help you even further craft and hone and
Yep.
figure out the magic that you get to bring to the world now. You unscrewed yourself,
Yep.
and you put, in so doing, realized, okay, this is valuable shit, right? So
Mhm.
talk to me about your desire to partner with others around this place that we find ourselves.
Yeah. I'm a student of what I teach, and I was like, wow, this is like because it's getting into the inner sanctum. Okay, my work gets into the inner sanctum, the real inner being and what's going on inwardly. And we do a lot of somatic work, and we do, um, you know, there's a lot of understanding of where everything came from. And once I understood that, I was like, oh my God, I'm a people pleaser. I'm a codependent. I'm a control freak. So a lot of things then made sense as to why I was the way that I was and why all the things affected me so, and how much everybody thought I was fabulous. Everybody's like, I love your energy. You think you're so fucking fabulous. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Right. So I believe, everybody believed in me, but I didn't believe in me, and I'm still a work in progress with that. So understanding all of that, I was like, oh, it was like a light bulb went off. Like, holy shit, now all this stuff makes sense. And wait, I can set boundaries, and wait, I can do things. And you know what I mean? And so, oh, I stayed in these jobs because, and like, how things affected me. And so I was like, I need to do this and share this with others because this makes so much sense now. This is like, wait, this is the deep inner work so that we understand who we are and why we are the way we are. And for those of us, like me, I was stuck, and I knew I was in my own damn way. And I was like, I don't want to keep living like this anymore. I don't want it to be like this anymore. There has to be more out there. And a lot of times when we're leaving corporate, or maybe you're still in corporate and thinking about this, because I did, I had this side also for years, not doing anything with it, petrified to leave my job because I needed the security of the job. Because the unknown is scary shit.
It's
Because our bodies are designed to keep us safe. So the minute we move the needle in a different direction, that's when resistance comes in, and we're like, and fear and whatnot. And it was like, nope, danger, danger, keep the same. And so a lot of us stay the same because of that. But
Mm-hmm.
what I teach is to understand what that is and how to dance with it and how to change your perspective about it so that when it shows up, because it's gonna,
Yep.
how do you then deal with that and overcome it on a consistent basis? And so what unscrewing yourself really is about is taking all of the things, understanding where you're not, where your limiting beliefs are coming from, where we limit ourselves, we label ourselves, we decide we can't do things, the stories we're telling ourselves. Because holy shit, I made so many stories about myself worrying and in these anxious and all these shitty feelings that we stay in all the time. Because fun fact from Kathy Heller, I'm not going to take credit for this. Apparently, feeling like shit raises our cortisol, and cortisol is like a drug, and it's
Mm-hmm.
actually a more addictive drug than nicotine. So when we feel like shit, we get this hit of cortisol, and so that's why we keep feeling we don't want to feel good, because we're so used to getting the hit of cortisol. So feeling good actually is like a withdrawal from the cortisol. And
Mm-hmm.
I was having this conversation yesterday with someone. You really have to sit in the shit. It's the uncomfortable. Think about when we were talking about gratitude before this started, right? Freaking caterpillar decided to become a butterfly. It sat in its own liquid, literally, and then became a butterfly. I'll think about how uncomfortable this thing was, becoming basically from a caterpillar to nothing, sitting in liquid, and then becoming a butterfly. But knowing that eventually you're going to get to this place that you want to go. And we
Mm-hmm.
were talking about gratitude. How freaking crazy and unbelievable is that, right? And that's the same thing with us as humans. We need to sit in this stuff, but also how great it is that we can. And
Right.
how great it is that we have the tools to be like, you know what? No, I'm going to sit in the shit. I'm going to feel the feelings. I'm not going to buy it, because a lot of times that was the other thing. I didn't feel any freaking feelings. I was so stressed out and angry. I was such an angry, God, I was such an angry mofo, And so that's what this program does. It takes the way you came to me. I actually have a picture. It's like this. It's like, this is old you and this is new version of you. And then there's like a tug of war, because there's going to be, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
beauty is you get to understand, oh, wait, I was like this. This is the way it was, and whatever. And so now you love corporate, or you're, oh my God, do I want to leave corporate? Oh, you know what? Yeah, the unknown may be a little bit scary, but I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy the journey to get there. I'm going to love myself. I'm going to appreciate myself. I know I'm enough. I know that I'm worthy of these things. And while shit's going to hit the fan and things are going to happen, I now have these tools, because I work with Caren, because she's so fabulous, to unscrew myself, to understand where I put my limits. Now I know I'm limitless. Now I know I don't have to make meaning out of things. Now I know that I have 6 ways that I can talk with fear, dance with fear. Now I know how to connect to my body,
Mm.
which is hugely important in the work that I do.
Yep.
Connecting to your body, nervous system regulation, nervous system love, rate. And by the way, that accounts for like rage rooms and breath work. And, I put a post up the other day how, I was pissed off at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I have a wiffle ball bat, like a bag of probably clothes in the garage. And I just took the wiffle ball bat and beat the shit out of clothes in the garage, and I was amazing, how to feel the feelings until they need to be felt. Inner child healing. By the way, we also do that because your inner child needs some loving too. And not just your inner child. By the way, I realized today, like my 22-year-old self needs some loving,
Mm.
and creating the safety and just being understanding, you know what? Because the second you're moving, nope, it's not going to happen. But oh my God, you know what? Yeah, thanks for showing up. I love you so much. I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate you so much for showing up. I love you. Come sit with me. Let's do this together. Not
Mm-hmm.
shooing it away. Oh my God, baby girl. I had a conversation with my little girl yesterday. Baby girl, I love you so much. I know you're scared. I know you were addicted to the chaos, because we also have addictions. Like I was addicted to chaos. I grew up in chaos. I said, I married chaos. I repeated the patterns, you know, I ended and because, not to say you end in marriage because of the work, but I was able to end my marriage because of the fact that, it needed to be done for me. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? And so all of that to say, like, you come to me one way and you rewire, reprogram, you come at a different version of yourself so
Mm-hmm.
that you show up. And by the way, you do have the power, like Dorothy, right? You have the power all along. It is within you. You don't need the external. The external doesn't drive the internal. You are internally all about yourself. So you harness. That's why the bio. It's you harness the power within yourself. So you're showing up as your unique, badass, authentic self. There's so many times we dim the light, whatever. Don't do that. Don't be. Don't whatever. You know. And then you blossom into this amazing. Not that you weren't before, but this different person.
Mhm.
confident, bold, showing up. Oh, wait, I'm done at 2. Cool. I'm done at 2. I know I did everything. I know I did the work that I wanted to do today. Yay. I can now enjoy my life. I can enjoy the freedom of what being an entrepreneur is like.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't have, oh, wait, I have the discipline that I know that I have like systems set up, or at least the power hour set up, or wherever you work, to work that system and to know that, you know what? Yep, I did everything. Even if it's 3 hours a day,
Yep.
I did everything. I know I did everything. Oh my God, I can go enjoy the rest of my afternoon. And it could be the norm for you.
Yep. It's a new norm.
And you won't give a shit about what anybody says about that. Oh, you don't working, because other people's opinions will be none of your business. All right, I'm done ranting now. I just kind of went off on a whole tangent.
I was just thinking to myself that this is the experience of Caren Cooper, is like dig in. And for folks listening in, like you can't see what I see, but I see a woman who is wildly compassionate about where she's been, who she's been, and just incredibly engaged. And you're if there were moments in your past that you stamped down for fear of, if I can go out on a limb here and just, something I think we probably share in our people pleasing is, oh wait, I need to tone myself down, right? No more of that shit, right? Turn the dial up,
Yeah.
and your soul has every right to be here, and be loud and proud of everything that you bring to the world. And so experiencing you just sharing is that, yeah, I love it. Don't ever tone yourself down, Caren Cooper. Please don't.
Thank you.
Please don't. We promised we would talk about briefly. I just did want to talk about this concept of gratitude, because it is, I was thinking about just these tools, and how do I even do this shit, and unlearn all the habits of being myself, right?
Yeah.
The routine, and just the muscle memory, and the addiction to suffering, and the addiction to chaos are things that we have to break. And this concept of gratitude, we were laughing, can be, I used the word slippery. It can be. I've got a teacher for whom I have a ton of respect, who talks about, you can slap yourself in the face with your gratitude. You should be thankful, right? We whip ourselves. You should be thankful. Jesus, look at all the shit you have, and all the stuff that you should be grateful for and thankful for this, and whipping, and you
Yeah.
just give yourself lashes. Don't use gratitude as a punishment, but we do, right? I am grateful. You should be using those are the slippery words, is the should word. I hate that word.
Well, and to interrupt you for a second, part of what we talk about in my program is not shitting on yourself. Because
Yeah.
should is also a judgment and a shame and disempowering. So
Amen.
go ahead. Sorry.
But the simple, no, it's fine. But the simple act, stopping yourself, when you and I first jumped on, you shared that you were doing some very active practice around gratitude. What is
Yeah.
gratitude in your life? How do you use it?
So yeah, I was sharing this, but this is what yeah. So because a lot of times we like be grateful for and thankful, whatever, like you were saying, right? But it's like, I'm grateful for my socks. Do you have an emotional tie to that? It's like a list that you make it about gratitude. And so what I teach is I am grateful for blank because blank. So I am grateful for Communications Queens and Her Nation, because I met Natalie and now I'm on her amazing podcast and sharing what I do with the world and having an amazing conversation. Now I have a new amazing human in my life. There's an emotion behind that, and there's a feeling behind that. So that's what I teach. But also, the gratitude comes in, and that's why you were saying about being slippery. So what I was sharing was that my car has been in the shop for a week, trying to figure out a problem with it. And I went this morning, I did, and he's like, stick with the plan. And I did, went this morning, I did exactly what he said to drive my car. And I brought it back and he's like, nope, you still need to drive it more. Nope. I know. And I was like, I have a podcast. And he was like, do your podcast, drive to, whatever. But he's like, no, drive it as much as you can over the weekend and bring it back to me Monday morning. And it was in the shop since this past Monday morning. Today is Saturday, June 29th. And I was just like, okay. So there was a part of me, quite frankly, that was frustrated. I'm like, oh God, my son and I share my car. It'd be great to share my car. I recently, started a part-time job in a salon, and I was just like, I as much as I love taking the bus, I'd like to have my car and whatnot. And then I saying, but it's kind of neat though, that like this mechanic is working with me, and so great. We were like laughing about the fact that I had a podcast interview, and like, but how great it is that he can fix my freaking car.
Yeah.
So like, even though it's a pain in the ass that had been there for a month in a way, but it was also like, okay, then checking myself, like, what am I making this mean? What am I doing here about this? That's part of what I do, right? And it was just like, yeah, it is frustrating sometimes. And it's okay to feel that way. And, I was just saying to Natalie, like, but he's helping me and he's being honest and my car will be fixed. And how freaking ridiculous is that? Like somebody like is a mechanic and can fix the car. So like that's where the gratitude comes in, because it's like, wait, I'm so grateful, even though it's a little bit of a interruption, so to speak, in my life, but wait, I can take public transportation, but wait, I can work with my son and we can figure things out, calmly and collectively what to do. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that was what we were talking about in terms of gratitude.
We get to apply the meaning and the value to these situations. We have choice and free will and consent.
Exactly.
And yes, we do. We get to apply the value. How do folks connect with you if they feel the energy that I do and have a desire to find you and connect with you energetically and as a human, as a coach, as another fantastic being out there in the world, just kicking ass and taking names.
And then watching my Friday dance videos.
Yes, and dancing with you on Fridays, disco ball. Yes.
Yeah, I actually forgot that I forgot I played disco ball necklaces. I totally forgot to wear tonight. But anyway, so I am on all the socials. Yes, I said it purposely that way. So connect with me, and when you connect with me, BTW, tell me that you heard me, where you heard me, because sometimes I always ask why people connect to me sometimes, but just say hey. So I am on LinkedIn and Facebook. There's the same name. So I'm Caren, but I'm not that Caren. It's Caren K. It's C-A-R. I'm not the Caren with a K. It's C-A-R-E-N. Chagrin, S-C-H-A-G-R-E-N. Cooper, C-O-O-P-E-R. I had to say that really slow because from New York we don't. I used to get faxes like Cooper because I never pronounced my R's. But anyway, because we don't in New York, we don't pronounce the R's. But so I know. So Caren Cooper, and then Instagram is Caren Caren Cooper COOPER_. So find me on all the socials. That's where I am. Friend me. But do you want to chat about what I do? I do offer free strategy discovery calls. Just straight up chatting, seeing what's up with you. We align. We work together. If we don't, we don't. Give you some bits. I give you some tricks.
I'll put all of your handles and connection points in the show notes. Any last thoughts before we call this little session good? I'd
like two things. Then the first thing is I would like you. I'm going to challenge. I'm going to give you homework.
Yes, please.
And I actually have it next to me here on my desk, which you can't see me looking to my right, but write it down wherever you are. I don't care, on the mirror, whatever. I am enough. I am worthy. I am enough. I am worthy, and I'm abundant. But at least I am enough and I am worthy. Write those down and say those to yourself. And even if you don't necessarily believe them, when you keep doing it, you will eventually believe them. And if you don't believe them, we'll keep chat. So that's all a conversation. And the other thing is, what I also teach is about embodiment. So how do you become from who you were to who you want to be? And it's a becoming process. And so if it were already yours, what would you be thinking and feeling right now?
Mm.
So when you are in the moments of, you know, I'm swirling, it's insanity and whatnot, think to and smile, just smile. Because even just a smile will do something. But if it were already mine, what would I be thinking and feeling right now? Even if it's, by the way, just the opposite of, you know what, now I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling like shit, whatever, because you can, what am I feeling? You know what I mean? You can feel when you feel like shit, your body is all different, you know this. Well, if it were already mine, if I say I want like a lot of money, maybe you don't believe you can have it. I didn't. I thought, I certainly didn't. But you know what? If I had a lot of money, what would I do with it? And start thinking about what you would do with it. And that changes your state instantly. And then you can go from, you can do things differently from there. So those are just two little tidbits of information to a part of what I do, but also to help you along on your journey right now.
Mm. I love it. I am enough and I am worthy.
And if you can't believe it that way, I'm learning to believe I am enough. I am learning to believe
I
that
am
I am
learning
worthy.
to believe I am enough. I love that. Thank
Yeah,
you
it's
for
like a bridge.
yeah. And thank you for showing up and sharing space with me and being exactly who you are. I am finding myself adoring you more than I did when I first met you, and for that I'm grateful. And I too am fascinated by just the universe putting folks together
Mhm.
and making sure that they know one another. And even though we've both waited 50 collectively an entire century for our paths with collected right, that we now know one another and
Yeah.
can be in each other's lives. Thank you for sharing your beauty with me. Um, and thank you, folks, for listening in. Thank you for choosing to think out loud with me and my guest today, Caren Cooper. Until we visit again, I ask that you go live with intention and with love. And please, please, please don't let anyone fuck with your flow. Big hugs, big love. Bye, friends.